The morning of the funeral arrived wrapped in a cold, metallic silence, the kind that settles over cities when something important is ending, and for the gathered crowd outside the marble cathedral, that ending was the life of Eleanor Whitmore, a billionaire philanthropist whose name crowned hospitals and scholarships across America, a woman the newspapers called generous but distant, kind but unknowable, and as black cars lined the street and mourners adjusted their coats, no one noticed the garbage truck rumbling closer until it screeched to a halt, and a man in an orange vest jumped down, waving his arms and shouting with a raw urgency that cut through the hymns and whispers, "Stop! She's not dead!" And for a moment everyone froze, stunned by the audacity of a garbage collector interrupting a billionaire's funeral, but the man didn't stop, his boots pounding the pavement as he ran toward the church steps, his face lined not with madness but with something far more unsettling, certainty, and when security tried to block him, he held up a trembling hand and said, "Please, I just need 1 minute because if you bury her today, you'll be burying a miracle." And murmurs rippled through the crowd as he introduced himself simply as Marcus, a sanitation worker from the south side of the city, someone most of them would never have noticed on an ordinary day. Yet now every eye was on him as he told his story, how 3 years earlier he'd been homeless after a factory closed and medical bills swallowed his savings, how he'd collapsed one winter night behind a restaurant dumpster, certain his life was ending there among the trash, and how a woman in a long coat had stopped, knelt beside him despite the snow soaking her knees, and called an ambulance, staying until help arrived, squeezing his hand and telling him, "You matter more than you think." Words that Marcus said had kept him alive long after his body healed, and only later did he discover that woman was Eleanor Whitmore, who quietly paid for his rehabilitation, helped him get training, and never once asked for recognition. And the crowd shifted uncomfortably as Marcus continued, explaining that he now volunteered nights at a hospice because kindness had a way of demanding to be passed on. And just 2 days earlier, he'd been there when a patient was brought in unconscious, her face pale, her hair familiar even under hospital lights, and it took him a moment to realize it was Eleanor herself, declared brain dead after a sudden collapse, machines breathing for her while doctors shook their heads, but Marcus noticed something they had dismissed, a faint pressure when he held her hand, a tear sliding from the corner of her eye when he spoke her name. Signs so small they were easy to ignore unless you believed, unless you remembered the way she had believed in him when he was nothing, and he begged the doctors to wait, to run more tests, to give her time. But legal orders and schedules moved faster than hope, and so here they were, preparing to lay her to rest while she still lingered somewhere between breaths. And Marcus's voice cracked as he said, "She saved my life when no one else would look at me, and I couldn't let her go without trying to save hers." And for a long, aching second no one spoke, until Eleanor's daughter, tears streaking her face, stepped forward and asked, "Are you saying my mother is alive?" And Marcus nodded, saying, "I'm saying she's fighting." And something in his certainty broke through the walls of protocol and privilege, because money could buy silence, but it couldn't buy this kind of conviction, and within minutes the casket was halted, the service postponed, and Eleanor was rushed back to the hospital amid disbelief and whispered prayers, and the world would later call it a medical anomaly, a delayed response, a rare neurological rebound. But Marcus called it kindness coming full circle, because Eleanor Whitmore woke up that night, confused and weak but alive. Her first words a rasped question about whether the man with the orange vest was okay, and when she learned what he had done she wept, not because she had been saved, but because love she had given quietly had returned louder than any monument. And in the weeks that followed, she used her fortune not to build more buildings with her name carved in stone, but to fund programs for people like Marcus, people the world steps around, reminding everyone that the truest wealth is not what you leave behind, but who stands up for you when you can no longer stand for yourself. And on a bright spring morning months later, Eleanor and Marcus walked past a garbage truck together, sharing coffee and laughter, two lives forever linked by a simple truth that echoed far beyond that interrupted funeral. No act of kindness is ever wasted, and sometimes the smallest voices carry the power to stop the world and bring someone back to life.